One of my concerns, and I think any leader's concern when you've been in an organization for a very long period of time, is what's going to happen next? You know, who's going to take the reins? And as I started to think about my succession, my transition out of the organization and finding a new leader for the organization, I really started to think about the organization differently. I started thinking about every leader of Living Opportunities and their succession and their transition out of Living Opportunities, because it takes a community of people really to run an organization like this. And you've got to be thinking, I think if you're a leader in this organization, you've got to be thinking every time you hire about the person that you hire, that ought to be somebody that might be able to take your place someday. You know, you've got to have people like that everywhere in the organization to make an organization, to help that organization stay in an arc that continues to grow over time. In terms of my transition, I think started thinking about it several years before it occurred. I knew I was aging. That wasn't a mystery to me. So I started thinking about it pretty early in the game. And you know, how do you do that? How do you find somebody? And I think I went right back to the mission of the organization and the basic values that we've operated on for many years, and started thinking about how could we find somebody that has those kind of values, that has that kind of thinking. I wasn't worried about where a person that had those kind of values would take the organization, because it's gonna change, it's gonna go wherever it goes. But as long as the values are intact and we continue to think about people having the same life that you and I want to have, we're going to be okay. And we found a wonderful leader to take my place, frankly. And we had done a similar thing before. We had hired lots of people who had personal connections, very deep connections, not just to the organization, but to the principles that it really operates on, because they had kids, or they had a brother, or they had a sister, or a cousin, or an uncle that had a disability, and that they were worried about what was going to happen to them. And so they were committed to creating environments that would help them be successful. And I think that's exactly what we found in Emily. She has a son, Parker. She has 3 wonderful sons, but she has a son, Parker, with autism. And very, like every family in a situation like that, very concerned about what's going to happen with Parker in the long run. And I think that's the kind of basis. I mean, she can, in a heartbeat, sit and just think about what's best for Parker. And very often, most often, perhaps always, what's best for Parker is what's best for Living Opportunities.